Every so often, something changes, and life is never the same again. Consider 3 discoveries of the last century: the atom, the bite, and the gene. The atom, building block of matter. The bite, building block of information. And the gene, building block of all life. These 3 tiny fundamental units shape our reality. We rely on them every day with every breath. Geneticist Siddhartha Mukherjee calls them the most dangerous ideas of human history. Now, not only can we understand the workings of nature, we can manipulate nature. Seeing the unseen has endowed us with godlike powers. The invisible builds worlds, and it can unbuild them too. When we could see the atom, we could split it. When we could encode the byte, we could harness the power of information or subvert it. When we could see the gene, we could engineer it. When we could see a virus, we could combat it or weaponize it to even deadlier ends. In these choices, science and religion converge. When we find a way to see what cannot be seen, our eyes open, as if for the first time. Seeing, in this sense, is not believing, it is knowing. Hence, Eve's temptation in the 3rd chapter of the book of Genesis. Eat of the tree of knowledge, and your eyes will be opened, she is told. You will be like God. Call it God, call it love, call it signals in our synapses. The unseen is powerful beyond all reckoning. Seldom have we felt this so intensely in so many different ways than this year. This summer, more than 100 Temple Israel members held small group conversations together online. This was not small talk. This was real talk. You shared so much that might have otherwise remained unknown, unseen. For instance, in the early days of the pandemic, an elderly mother was diagnosed with COVID-19 just as her granddaughter rushed to the front lines as an emergency nurse. Another family described their helplessness when an older relative fell at home. Should they even call first responders? Would the risk of indoor transmission outweigh the benefit of that emergency help? One theme of this year is impossible choices. I remember sitting on the phone with a man unable to attend the funeral of his wife of 50 years. I had no words. The Jewish way to mourn is together with those who love us. The Jewish way to celebrate is together with those who love us. We cannot do that now. We've been too much apart, too much alone. It is against the natural order for us to be alone, a literal reversal of creation. Lo tov heyot ha'adam levado, muses God, again in the book of Genesis. It is not good for human beings to be alone. So from Adam comes Eve, and from Eve comes the entire human family, the whole rest of history. Lo tov, it is not good to be alone. We know this, yet this year we have all felt alone. In our community conversations, one member described a painful loneliness that, in his words, just settles on you. Some of us haven't shared a hug or a kiss or even a handshake in over 6 months. My baby nephew was born 8 weeks ago, and my parents are still waiting to meet their first grandson. We held his bris on Zoom, but as you know, screens and circuits, as great as they are, can never really replicate the encounters that nourish and sustain us. And while many of you lamented these losses, you also shared appreciation for unexpected quality time with the children and grandchildren who had escaped the city and set up shop in your home, for relationships that we might have taken for granted, for life's many privileges like safety, good health, and a place to call our own. Now, I confess, I was not prepared to feel quite so humbled by your openness. You connected with one another in these conversations powerfully, empathetically. Westport and Weston are not known, let's be honest, for being particularly humble places, but you shared your struggles with tremendous humility. My friends, this is the makeup of a connected, resilient community. This year, you became my teachers. You showed chesed, love and care, by checking in on our elders and those living alone. You brought groceries to the sick and offered comfort to the bereaved. You unexpectedly took on new roles: teacher, camp counselor, technology director. You admitted that you don't have all the answers, but you showed up anyway, and you continue to show up anyway, as hard as it is, because you care. Mother Teresa said that if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. Mother Teresa did not know about the coronavirus. She just knew what was most important. This pandemic has stripped away the veneer from our material lives. We already knew, but we remember the things that we cannot see usually matter the most. The story of the prophet Elijah. At a major turning point in his life, a time of danger, he finds himself alone, pursued by enemies. So he flees up to a mountaintop and cries out to God. He needs a miracle. Lo and behold, as you would expect the Bible to do, a mighty wind comes and blows with gale force. The mountain begins to crack and crumble. It's a classic miracle, right? A showstopper. But then, puzzlingly, the text tells us God is not in the wind. Then comes a hurricane, but God is not there either. That storm dies down, and Elijah is suddenly surrounded by rings of fire on all sides. He shields his face from the heat. He can't breathe, but again, we learn God is not in that fire. The fire goes away, it dies down. All is quiet. And then, out of the stillness, a kol dmama daka, a still, small voice. And in this barely audible whisper, God begins to speak. Elijah begins to understand. And after this encounter, his life is changed forever. Like Elijah in his time of great need, we now stand at the precipice. The mountain is cleft. The wind has passed for a time. The shofar has sounded and the still small voice beckons. Will we respond? Will we respond? Will we listen? Will we see? The choice is ours and ours alone. This year, it seems that there is so little we can decide, but we can decide what to carry with us and what to leave behind. We can take the first step to mend that broken relationship. We can pay more attention to that back burner dream, that urgent call for justice that you just started to feel in your gut. We can stay more connected and more caring than ever before. But you didn't really need a rabbi to tell you all of this. This year, you told me. You became my teachers. You welcomed me and our community into the precious unseen of your lives. Where we will go from here, none of us truly knows. But we also know that no matter what we must endure, no matter how far apart we feel, we are never alone.